The Keltheran Prime Station hung in the void like a jewel of impossible geometry, its crystalline spires refracting the light of 3 distant suns. Within its sterile corridors, Emma Vostrov, security officer and decorated veteran of the Terran Defense Corps, stood before the station's central defense terminal, her jaw clenched in frustration. "Impossible," muttered Velkith, the Keltheran lead engineer, his 4 eyes blinking in asynchronous patterns that betrayed his species' equivalent of panic. "The quantum entanglement matrix has completely destabilized. Without it, our defense grid is blind. Any hostile vessel could breach our perimeter, and we wouldn't detect them until they were already docking." Emma's fingers flew across the holographic interface, each gesture leaving trails of blue light in the air. "How long until the replacement components arrive from Kelthora 4? 47 standard hours, Velkith replied, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless standard. "We are defenseless." The irony wasn't lost on Emma. Keltheran Prime was the diplomatic hub for 7 alien species, a neutral ground where the Galactic Concordance had been signed only 3 cycles ago. Now, with tensions rising between the Draxel Confederacy and the Telesi Collective, the station had become a potential powder keg, and their only protection had just gone dark. "Lock down all non-essential sectors," Emma ordered, already calculating their limited options. "Redirect all personnel to—" "Excuse me, ma'am." The voice came from behind them, quiet, almost apologetic. Emma turned to see James Chen, the human janitor who'd been assigned to the station 6 months ago. He stood in the doorway of the command center, wearing his standard-issue gray maintenance coveralls, a plasma mop still clutched in one weathered hand. "James, now isn't the time," Emma said, not unkindly. The man was in his late 50s, with gray threading through his dark hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He'd always been polite, always stayed out of the way. Background checks had shown he'd been a maintenance worker on various stations for decades. "I understand, MAAM, but I couldn't help overhearing." James stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the diagnostic display showing the failed quantum matrix. "Your entanglement nodes are phase-locked at the wrong frequency. That's why the cascade failure propagated through the entire grid." Velkith's translator emitted what could only be described as a scoff. "The human custodian presumes to understand Keltheran quantum engineering. Our technology is centuries beyond what we had 60 years ago." "Sure," James interrupted mildly, setting down his mop. "But see that harmonic resonance pattern?" He pointed to a series of waveforms on the display. "That's a classic bootstrap paradox in the entanglement field. The nodes are trying to synchronize with their future states, but the temporal causality loop got inverted." Emma felt her pulse quicken. "How do you know this?" James's smile was sad, distant. "Before I was a janitor, ma'am, I was a lot of things, including a quantum field engineer for the Terran Navy's Black Projects Division. Worked on the prototype defense grids for the first deep space stations, back before the Kelthra made first contact." "You worked on military quantum systems?" Emma's mind raced through the implications. "Why are you mopping floors?" "Got old. Got tired. Made some mistakes." James shrugged. "Figured I'd finish out my years somewhere quiet. Somewhere I could be useful without carrying the weight of lives on my conscience. But—" He looked at the failing display, then at Emma. "I'm guessing lives are on the line right now." Velkith's 4 eyes narrowed. "Even if your claim is accurate, human, the defense grid is hard-coded with Keltheran encryption. The access protocols alone would take 743 nested quantum keys in a nonlinear sequence." James said quietly, "I know. I've been watching the security team's work for 6 months. I pay attention." He turned to Emma. "Ma'am, I can't promise miracles, but I can get your grid back online, probably within 3 hours. But I'll need unrestricted access to the core systems." Emma studied the old man's face. In his eyes, she saw something she recognized: the look of someone who'd seen combat, who'd made impossible choices under fire, the military bearing that never fully left a soldier, even one wearing a janitor's uniform. "Velkith, grant him access," Emma ordered. "This is highly irregular. Do it." "That's an order." For the next 2 hours and 41 minutes, Emma watched as James Chen became someone else entirely. His weathered hands moved with precision across the holographic interfaces, reconfiguring quantum matrices with the ease of someone conducting a symphony. He spoke in rapid-fire technical jargon to Velkith, who'd gone from skeptical to astonished within the first 20 minutes. "He's not just fixing the grid," Velkith whispered to Emma at one point. "He's optimizing it, rewriting our core algorithms. This human, his understanding of quantum entanglement theory exceeds our own engineers." James worked in silence, occasionally muttering to himself equations, calculations, fragments of memories. Emma caught snippets. ... just like the Titan station retrofit. No, adjust for the temporal drift ... there. When the defense grid blazed back to life, its displays showed 97%, efficiency 12% higher than its original specifications. James stepped back from the console, wiping sweat from his brow. That should hold until your replacement parts arrive. I've also patched in some redundancies, so if one node fails again, the others will compensate automatically. Emma moved to stand beside him. James, why didn't you tell anyone about your background? The old man picked up his plasma mop, hefting it like an old friend. Because titles and resumes don't matter much, ma'am. What matters is showing up, doing the work, being useful where you can. I learned that lesson the hard way. His eyes grew distant again. Lost some good people once because I was too proud to admit I needed help, too confident in my own brilliance. Figured being a janitor would keep me humble, keep me human. The Concordance owes you a debt, Velketh said, his translator conveying genuine respect. You have saved countless lives today. James smiled. Just doing my job, sir. Speaking of which, I should get back to seat. Someone spilled synthetic lubricant in corridor 12, and it's a safety hazard. As he turned to leave, Emma called out, James, thank you, for everything you've done, for everything you didn't say. The old janitor paused at the doorway, looking back with those tired, knowing eyes. We all carry our pasts, ma'am. Sometimes the best thing we can do is make peace with them, find a new way to serve. The universe doesn't care about our titles. It only cares about what we do when it matters. Then he was gone, disappearing into the station's corridors with his mop and his secrets. Emma turned back to the defense grid display, watching it pulse with renewed life. Somewhere in the vast arc between stars, the station was safe again, protected by technology restored by a man the galaxy had dismissed, overlooked, underestimated. She made a mental note to update James Chen's personnel file, but somehow, she suspected he'd prefer to remain exactly what he appeared to be, a janitor who showed up, did the work, and asked for nothing in return. Sometimes, she reflected, the greatest heroes were the ones who'd already had their glory and chose service over recognition. The defense grid hummed steadily, its quantum matrices perfectly aligned, and in corridor 12 of C, an old man mopped up synthetic lubricant, whistling an ancient Terran tune.